You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Baseball, man. It's baseball, man. Baseball. Baseball is crazy. Baseball is nuts. But I don't really know how to quantify anything these days, and we're only halfway through the wild card games in Major League Baseball's postseason. Like, we are one game into October, basically. Yes, I know we had the two tiebreakers on Monday. I understand all of that. We're basically one game into October, and I honestly don't know if my heart will be able to handle this or if I will be dead before the end of the month.
So welcome to the last month of the Minor League Baseball podcast, the show before the show.
It's been great being with you all, but we really don't know how much longer this is going to last. Man, what a night of baseball, though, last night as we got the postseason started in 2018, and we welcome you into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast from MILB.com. My name is Tyler Mon. Sam Dykstra, my co-host, and trusty pal alongside. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Tyler. I'm sure many people have tuned in this week wondering what your voice was going to sound like. And yeah. It's as clear and present as ever, which is wonderful.
Clear as a bell.
It is now. And again, we're 13 innings. We're practically a game.
Yeah, we're almost a game and a half.
Yeah, technically one game, but
that is true.
A game and a half, essentially, into the minor league postseason. And then we had tiebreaker games on Monday. We're recording this on Wednesday tonight. The Yankees are hosting the Oakland Athletics for who's going to win the AL wild card for the chance to play the Boston Red Sox starting on Friday. For all we know, that could be a dud. But even if it's a dud with real meaning. I don't even know what a wild card game dud would look like. Is that like 6-2? Where all 6 runs are scored in the...
It's like Game 7 of the World Series last year where you were just so hyped up for it, and then I was like, it's still a Game 7, and that's exciting, but wasn't really that great.
That's a good example, yeah. But, yeah, last night was almost like all those other games in that World Series that got us so hyped up to begin with.
Insane.
Rolled into one.
Yeah, that is true. So obviously, being a biased observer, it was a fun game last night. Had it gone the other way, I think I still would have been able, as an objective baseball fan, to admit just how great of a game it was, but probably wouldn't sound so chipper this morning. Not even morning anymore. It's the afternoon, as we are set for American League tiebreak or wild card action coming up tonight. The Oakland Athletics and the New York Yankees will take the field at Yankee Stadium coming up here in just a short time, actually, for the AL wild card game. And before we dive into Three Strikes on this week's episode, everybody has this conversation every year. But the wild card game, Sam, overall, we're 5 years into the wild card game, whatever it is now. What's your take on the wild card game right now? Baseball, 162 games, a marathon. You play a month of games before the season even starts, and then you play 6 months of games. You play every single day. It's a sample size that, as I think it was Matt Sussman last night on Twitter said, is unassailable, or Matt Uford, one of those guys, an unassailable, lengthy sample size. And then you get to the wild card game, and it's like you have to bring it or go home. Like, what's your feeling on the wild card game?
I feel like I'm almost a little biased in this, in that I had this idea a long time ago, and I wish I tweeted it or wrote it down and sealed it in a letter or something. But I always thought,
I had a Mickey Mantle rookie card and my mom threw it away. My dad says that.
Yeah, sure. But no, I've always thought, even going back to growing up and the way the team I followed growing up, the Boston Red Sox, the only way they were getting in the postseason in the early 2000s and late 90s was through the wild card. But even then, it felt somewhat unfair that they were put on the same level as as teams that won their division. So I thought, okay, expand it out a little bit. You get more teams in, or one more team in, but at least, hey, that's another fan base that gets excited. And hey, if you want to be put on the same level as division winners, you have to play an extra game. It's going to throw off what I thought at the time would be people's rotations. I thought that's when you put your best pitchers in the game. That's not necessarily how it's worked out, obviously, with openers and the way we treat bullpens now. But still, I think there should be a little bit of a panic if you didn't win your division, and that's essentially what we have now. Could I have predicted a time when the Yankees are clearly the second best regular season team in baseball and still have to go through all of this? No, not necessarily. But still, it's an exciting product. It's an automatic Game 7, which is really, really cool. If you have an argument about like, oh, well, my team won 95 plus games. Why do we have to go through this when a team that won division only won 90, 92? I get it. You had 162 games to prove yourself within your division, knowing the rules. I'm totally cool with this. There's some ideas now going around of like, oh, maybe they should do a best of 3 to kind of put that aside. Nah, it's so much fun to watch games like last night. Even with all the strategy that goes in terms of Charlie Blackmon getting double switched out because Buddy Black wants Wade Davis to still pitch, like all that kind of stuff. And I get it. There's so much gamesmanship that goes into one game that doesn't necessarily make it exciting. But that was one of the most exciting 2-1 games I can think of. Yeah. And more of that is always welcome. And the only way we get that is if it's a 1-game series, a 1-game winner takes all. So I really, really like this. I think it's one of the best postseason ideas baseball has had in a while. If expansion happens, I would love to come back to the topic and, how does baseball go about handling that? But for right now, I'm really excited with the way this works and the fact that it's, it's still exciting that however, what'd you say, 5 years out, how long we've had this experiment, it has been really, really cool. So all on board beforehand. Again, I wish I had evidence to point that out, but having seen it play out the way it has, it's been really cool, and I'm really glad they went ahead and did this.
Yeah, I do think it's a great point and something that gets lost when people look at, it's a 1-game winner take all, whatever. It's designed to make the route more difficult for a wild card team. And if you're a wild card team, you should have a more difficult road because there was a long stretch of time where the wild card teams were making it into the MLB postseason because they had been playing these do or die scenarios for the last 3 weeks of a regular season, rolling their way through the playoffs, crushing all these division winners who were the best teams wire to wire. I sound like Kelsey Hennigan right now. That only the best teams should be rewarded and not the hottest teams. But I do understand the argument that if you're a team that played exceedingly well April through August, you shouldn't be put behind the 8-ball just because you didn't have to play this frenetic month of September in order to make it in. And that's kind of what the wild card had created. It had created this atmosphere where these teams were getting scorching hot toward the end of the season because they were already playing in these playoff atmosphere types of games. Now, I, being a red-blooded American, I love underdog stories. I love Cinderella stories, the anti-Kelsey Hennigan in that context. And so I've always been a fan of when wild card teams get in and do good things, but agreeing with Kelsey and fans like that from this perspective, wild card teams did not earn it. Even if you win 105 games, if you did not win your division, you did not earn a division winner's route. And is that fair? No. Here's the thing about sports, they're not fair. So I do think that the creation of the wild card game in the context that it makes it more challenging for wild card winners, that's the biggest and most important aspect of it. So I think that's a great point to bring that out. And so with that, here we are in this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. We are going to talk minor league baseball because that's what we do on this podcast, and we'll get things started with 3 strikes for this week's episode. Thanks for joining us wherever you found us. You can tune in at milb.com/podcast. We're on iTunes, we're on Google Play, we're everywhere else, and we're going to start with a conversation about the minor leagues in relation to these major league playoffs. MLB Pipeline had a great tweet the other day in which they put out a graphic of how all of the MLB postseason teams were built coming into the 2018 playoffs. It was their projected division series rosters and how players were acquired, whether it was via free agency, waiver, Rule 5, or trade. Those were under the trade and waiver bracket. and homegrown prospects from international and draft acquisitions. The Colorado Rockies led the way with 12 homegrown players, followed by the Los Angeles Dodgers, if you can believe that. So many people talk about, oh, the Dodgers, they just signed free agents. The Dodgers had the fewest free agent signings among their projected Division Series roster, according to this graphic. Then the Houston Astros and the Boston Red Sox with 10 homegrown players each, and it falls from there. The Yankees with 8, 7 apiece for the Braves and the Cubs, along with Cleveland on the other side, 5 for the Milwaukee Brewers, 4 for the Oakland Athletics, which is kind of fascinating as well. It really shows you have all these preconceived notions of how these teams were built that may not actually be justified by the way these projected rosters were. Now, there are some differences between what the rosters ended up being and what they were projected as being for this graphic. But, Sam, when you look at the now 9 teams that are moving on to the Division Series, tonight it'll be 8 after the Yankees and A's duel in the American League wildcard game, which playoff team did the best building to where they are from within?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of interesting to think about this in terms of, what we think of are the blueprints for success, basically. In recent times, the Astros and the Cubs obviously come out because 2 recent World Series winners, and both teams that definitely rebuilt from within. And you can say all you want about tanking and picking up picks, but they did a good job of drafting. The Astros, getting Carlos Correa #1 at the time seemed like, okay, they were doing it to save a little bit of money, but that pick looks great now. They get Alex Bregman #2 a couple of years later. That's worked out really well. The Cubs kind of same way. Chris Bryant is somebody that's come up through their farm system. Javi Baez, an NL MVP candidate this year. The Brewers have always been kind of in that mix. But to look at the raw data, it's been really cool and we need to kind of sit back, and Tyler, you're closer to the situation than I am. With the Rockies, the way they, the lineup we saw last night, and I don't know how many of you watched and listened to the ESPN2 broadcast, but they were saying
so good.
It was really good.
Jason Benetti is one of our minor league pedigree dudes. Jason Benetti worked his tail off through his career in the minor leagues. He is maybe the best play-by-play guy in baseball already, and he was on the call last night on ESPN2 with Eduardo Perez and Mike Petriello. And I just can't say enough good things about Jason Benetti and how good that broadcast was last night. Right,
and one of the things they pointed out was this is not your father's or like older brothers, I guess at this point. What are they, 25 years old? You can't really say that your father's anything. But this isn't the Rockies team of past, in which they were just going to slug you out and win games 13-10 and all that kind of stuff. This is a team that's built on starting pitching and some really good starting pitching.
Yeah.
As we saw from Kyle Freeland, Tyler Anderson's been solid for them. John Gray is obviously they've always wanted him to be the ace, and that hasn't quite worked. But the building blocks are there from the rotation, and those are guys that they brought in, through the farm system. And then even last night, towards the latter innings, it was very clear that the Rockies lineup wasn't as strong, and if they were going to get hits, it was only going to come from a couple places. But those places were Trevor Story, a 2011 pick, Nolan Arenado, a 2009 second rounder who at one point was their top prospect. Charlie Blackmon, who I brought up earlier, who got taken out of the game. He's been a 2-time Silver Slugger. He was a second round pick in 2008. So, the Rockies, as much as we'd like to think like, oh, they can just get anybody, they can pick up Ian Desmond and insert him into a lineup and he's going to be a solid hitter. The core of their team is homegrown talent from the starting pitching right to the starting 9. And to see them get to this moment has been really cool. According to MLB Pipeline, saying they only signed 5 free agents that are expected to be part of the DS roster, and those 5 free agents are only worth 0.7 WAR this season, compared to the homegrown players who come through the draft or international signings. There are 12 of those, and they are worth 30 WAR. That's just insane. So this. Obviously Colorado is always going to struggle to sign starting pitching, and that's been talked about for the last 25 years, except for maybe Mike Hampton. But to see them get to this moment, really trading blows, obviously, with the Dodgers all season, right up until games 163. Dodgers, another team who, like you said, we feel like have built internally, and I do think they deserve points for having Walker Buehler, being the star he was in that game, 163, a guy who came up through the system. Cody Bellinger the same way. Clayton Kershaw feels like a veteran, but was a draft pick of the Dodgers way back in the day. Yasiel Puig, they signed out of Cuba. They get points for him, and Kenley Jansen, who they originally signed as a catcher, now one of the game's best relief pitchers when he's healthy. But still, the Rockies, as good as the Dodgers have built from within and added supplemental pieces, the Rockies have been almost even better at that. And, if they're not going to be signing free agents, they need to hit on these guys, and they have done a really good job of that. Are those other pieces in the pipeline for them to keep this going? Maybe Brendan Rodgers becomes part of that conversation soon. They would certainly hope so by next year. Peter Lambert's right there. Garrett Hampson joined the team this year as well. Colton Welker's kind of coming up as well. So there could be more on the way. It's not as strong a Rocky system as it used to be when Arenado was the top prospect there. But to see the Rockies build out this way and to be rewarded with an LDS appearance has been really neat, and something I feel like we've overlooked here in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's really pretty incredible to see the way these teams have built up these systems. And, one of the teams that is very fresh in my mind, because I just today we published the Atlanta Braves organization All-Stars. When you look at the core group that the Braves are going to be going into the postseason with, even the older guys on that roster are homegrown for the most part. I mean, Julio Teheran is a homegrown guy. Freddie Freeman is a homegrown guy. Some of these dudes that have been around the block with the Braves, you feel like they've been there forever. They were guys the Braves drafted or signed internationally and developed. But then when you look at the talent supplementing those guys, Dansby Swanson, I know, is a long shot right now to join the roster for that series. Torn ligament in his thumb, I believe, is the injury. And so possibility we don't see him again on the field this season. But obviously with what Ronald Acuna has done this season, with what Ozzy Albies has done so far in his career, and then this young pitching staff of the guys who we've talked about, it feels like for years, who now have broken into the major leagues, that's a team that this window has opened for the Braves maybe a little bit faster than everybody projected. They are a scary, scary team going forward. And it's fascinating to me that you look at it and it's only 7 quote-unquote homegrown guys on the Braves roster, which is the 4th lowest total among postseason teams, tied with the Cubs, who are now eliminated in that category. But I think when you look at these numbers, to me, you could call some of the other guys homegrown guys as well, because when you look at Touki Toussaint, he's technically not a homegrown guy for the Atlanta Braves because they did not draft him. He was acquired via trade. I don't think you look at Touki and think, oh yeah, he's a D-backs guy who the Braves are just now capitalizing on making it to the major leagues in 2018, etc. Those types of players who have been acquired. For the Rockies, that's Herman Marquez, somebody who was acquired via trade with the Tampa Bay Rays a few years ago, makes it up, starts the National League tiebreaker game back on Monday. Some of these organizations have those players who are not quote-unquote homegrown, but the guys who have grown up and graduated through the system, that's another component of these rosters. And I think it's cool because you don't see many teams going out and just hauling in these big money free agents the way you think they do. I mean, granted, a lot of the big money acquisitions from some of these teams fall under the category of trades and are still the big money things that they can do that other teams can't do. The New York Yankees pulling in Giancarlo Stanton. Yeah, it's not the Yankees of the early 2000s in that they signed him as a free agent, but nobody else was going to take on that contract. Nobody else had the ability to do that financially. But the Red Sox, Yankees, and Dodgers have the fewest amount of free agents of any postseason rosters, and that kind of blows you away, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you have to think about who those free agents are necessarily. For the Red Sox, that's JD Martinez, who I think a lot of people have pointed to. The Red Sox had a big power-shaped hole in their lineup, and they plug him in. And yes, he's only one free agent, but that's a big free agent to bring in.
And that's what you have to do when you make those picks. When you give that money out, you have to give it out in the intelligent ways. And if you can surgically select, this is the guy to fill the role that we need, when you've got the financial resources to do it, you can hit big on it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's, Chris Sale, David Price. Right. David Price, it was another free agent signing who they saw like, hey, we need an ace. Let's go get him. And that when that didn't work out, even, they traded Michael Kopech, Yohan Moncada, and others for Chris Sale. I mean, that's also speaking to the strength of a farm system. The Red Sox farm system is a little depleted right now, and there's not the clear, hey, this guy's going to come in and help like there was with Devers or Benintendi or, going even back, Mookie Betts, Jackie Bradley Jr. But still, it's to their credit that they've been able to develop a lot of these guys and bring them up and have them just be, the players who used to just get signed as big free agent contracts. That being said, I think this is going to be an interesting offseason, and we don't necessarily focus on this too much. But how are some of these contending clubs? The Braves, the Phillies were almost there. A lot of which is built on homegrown talent. How are they going to supplement that with the Bryce Harpers, the Manny Machados of the world, the potential Clayton Kershaws of the world? If he decides to dip his toe into the free agent waters, this will be really, really interesting to see how that kind of works out. But as we're seeing here with the teams that did make it this year, the foundation has been who did you sign out of the draft? Who have you signed internationally? And then how have you supplemented the rosters around those? Because that's where the base is.
One more point just before we wrap this up and move on to strike two. Sam and I are very much of the same mind when, we're two people admittedly just hopelessly in love with the romance of baseball. And I will say, and obviously this is a somewhat biased context because of that game last night, the fact that it's my childhood team and whatever, but the game of baseball, man, like, I do a lot of broadcasting for other sports and other stuff, and in basketball you look for your best player to take the final shot in the last minute. In football, your quarterback is the dude who is everything is focused on him on the final drive. In baseball, you can be a glove first converted catcher, Rule 5 draft pick who can't hit your weight, who doesn't have a hit in nearly a month, 0 for your last 15, and one swing of the bat in the 13th inning of an elimination game makes you a legend. Tony Wolters may not do anything else throughout the entirety of his major league career, but Tony Wolters has a game-winning base hit on the road in Wrigley Field in the playoffs, and that's a guy who, the Cleveland organization had him in the system as an infielder. Terry Francona saw something in him, decided to make him a catcher. He's one of the top, metric-wise, one of the top pitch framers and defensive catchers in baseball, but a guy who offensively hasn't really hit his stride in the big league so far. And last night, I think the vast majority of Rockies fans look at Tony Wolters coming up in that situation, runners at the corners, 2 outs in the 13th, and think, well, they're going to have to hold this tie game in the bottom of the 13th as well. And then Tony Wolters is the guy to come through. And it's something, that playball.org commercial where they say, here's the thing about this game. It doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter, the color of your skin. It doesn't matter anything. You can play. That's what I love about baseball is it really is the great equalizer in that way. And that's last night exemplifies it as much as anything. That was an incredible baseball game and one of those moments that really makes you love the sport.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think that it is great about baseball is that in some way everybody has the ball at one point.
Yeah.
I'm a big basketball fan. I grew up on basketball in the Michael Jordan era, and I love when a single player can just go on a run, score 12 straight points and all that. And that's really awesome to see. And I can get sucked into it that way. But in terms of baseball being the great equalizer, you can't keep sending up your best player to keep hitting. Everybody's got to, everybody in that lineup card has to come up at a certain point. Terrence Gore, as cool as it was to see him be used in that way because he's on the roster and used for his pinch running skills, if you're going to use him like that, he's still got to hit. He still has to come up and try to make the most out of his speed. And so it's just really neat to have, a Tony Wolters moment like that. And that goes both ways, going all the way back to Billy Buckner. You think, just because you're on the field, you can hide or something like that. Baseball will find you. It'll allow you to make an impact. And there is no sleeping in this game. Either direction, sleeping on a great player, sleeping on a seemingly bad player. And you're right. Like moments like last night just seem so unique to this game. And it's why we fall in love, starting every March and ending every November.
It's pretty incredible. The postseason is likely going to kill me. So just in case you have enjoyed this podcast, by the end of the month, I make no guarantees that I'm here based on the drama of last night. So strike two. We kind of discussed this a little bit, but a bit of a different dimension to this. When you look at these playoff teams, Sam, and how they've built and the way they've graduated talent, who is best positioned for the future based on its farm system now?
Yeah, I think it is the Braves, to all the points you made there. It's just because I'm really going to be interested to see going into this offseason how they're going to handle that starting rotation. Just because of the plethora of options that they have already, between Mike Fultonowicz and they brought in Kevin Gausman and going down the line, but Sean Newcomb's also been a fairly solid starter, although he continues to have control problems. But they brought up Colby Allard, they brought up Max Fried, they brought up Touki Toussaint, who could be working his way into an LDS appearance. I'm going to be interested to see what happens there. They brought up Kyle Wright at the end of the season just to use him as a bullpen arm. Bryce Wilson, the same thing. We talked about how he climbed 4 levels. A lot of these guys are probably starters, and there's only going to be 5 spots. Do they decide they're going to go into a opener type territory? I don't think so. There's nothing that it indicates to me that Snicker would do that. But there's only so many spots. Do they send Colby Allard back to AAA next year? Because he's not somebody who I think works necessarily as a reliever. He's not going to add velocity to his fastball in shorter stints, and that's what's lacking in his game right now is that velocity. But do they decide to move Toussaint to the bullpen? I don't think so either, because he's been a really, really good starter. Just how are they going to make this work? And it's a good problem to have. And Acuna's just going to get older. What happens when Christian Pache is ready? Could that be next year? What would an outfield of Christian Pache, Ender Inciarte, and Ronald Acuna Jr. be like? Would a ball ever hit the ground? Who's to say? I think that would be really tough. Ian Anderson's obviously coming up. Austin Riley was looking close to Major League ready this year. Does he slide in there? But then again, at third base, they have Johan Camargo already. Just the plethora of options they have. And Freddie Freeman's obviously going to be the foundation of that team for a long time. Same thing for Ozzie Albies. They're only going to get better. They're only going to get older. They're only going to get more experienced. And this postseason run, no matter what happens, I think we have to look at the Braves as a contender for the National League next year, just because of this experience that they're getting. And like I said, this offseason, are they going to package some of these arms into a bigger piece, a shinier piece? I'm not sure. Even if they don't, injuries happen, and to have this type of depth is going to be really, really cool. That extra year of maturity is going to help big time. And, all those other pieces that are slowly coming up is just going to be so exciting. I'll also just throw in the Yankees because, obviously they graduated this year, Gleyber Torres and Miguel Andujar. So now those guys are stalwarts on the infield. But this is a team that really seems to, promote pitching extremely well and do well with pitching. Jonathan Loaiziga did a great job this year, and they did a great job of developing him. Domingo Germán is somebody who came up through that system and really worked well. So I feel like the Yankees, whenever they need an arm, they just have one ready. Yes, they did trade for Lance Lynn. Yes, they did trade for Jay Happ this year. But with the way they turn lower level arms into something really solid, I'm never going to sleep on the Yankees in terms of development. Do they need to make another deal for Stanton? I can't see that happening. Just the way the farm system is put into place right now, Justice Sheffield looks like he'll be a major league starter next year. Don't sleep on the Yankees.
Strike 3 this week. Organization All-Stars are here. The Arizona Diamondbacks and the Atlanta Braves already up on the site. You can check those out at MILB.com. And we've got all 30 systems, of course, with stories coming up from now into December, our Organization All-Stars series. And Sam, just give us your early reactions to the D-backs, who had a pretty good system this season among prospects. kind of their lesser known guys, I think, had better years than maybe what people would have projected coming into this year. And then obviously the Atlanta Braves, what they did to graduate talent and even some of the younger guys taking steps forward. Give us some of your reactions to these first two.
Yeah, I mean, having just spoken about the Braves, I'll kind of leave that to you because it was your report as well. You were the one who came out with the org all-stars for the Braves. But one guy I just want to touch on real fast in the D-back system that I feel like we didn't talk about this year that much, and part of that is that he's not a top 100 prospect, but he is, as things stand right now, the number 2 prospect in that Arizona system is Taylor Widener, who spent all of the year at AA Jackson, made 25 starts, appeared in 26 games, threw 137 and a third innings, struck out 176 batters over that time, which is just absolutely insane. Posted a 2.75 ERA. Basically somebody who I would have liked to have seen, get a chance at AAA Reno, see what he can do in the Pacific Coast League. D-backs seem like they're kind of content on allowing him to get that success, and I get that. He's got a plus fastball. He's going to mix it between 93 and 97 according to Pipeline. So he'll be around the mid-90s. He's got above average slider. That's going to work, at the AA level, having those 2 above average options. And then if you can mix in a changeup, that's going to be good as well. Coming into the year, we basically thought this was the system of John Duplantier, who we had on the podcast previously, after he had a stunning 2017 season. Didn't quite work out. He had to battle some injury issues of his own. But Widener comes in and basically steps in as that next shining Arizona pitching prospect. I would hope, he's definitely going to start next year at AAA Reno. I would hope that he gets a look at Arizona by the middle of the year if he continues to get bats to miss. And I mentioned before that he's not a top 100 guy. He certainly wasn't at the beginning of the year, but he has worked his way into that now. He's actually ranked at number 97. So kind of exciting to see him work his way into that mix. What he's going to do and build on this, we'll have to see. If you're going to get, strike out more than 9 batters per 9 innings, you're going to need more than just 2 above average pitches. So he'll definitely be tested in the PCL going forward. But for being a 12th round pick out of South Carolina in 2016, to develop in this way has been really exciting for an Arizona system that kind of needs a shot in the arm, especially if Duplantier is going to be injured for most of the year. So good for him in working as well as he did this year. Also, quick shout-outs to Jazz Chisholm, who we had on the podcast a couple of weeks back. He was our selection at shortstop. And Dalton Varsho, the number 5 prospect in that system, who I really like just because he's got this interesting combo of both power and speed for a catcher. He's been given a plus grade as a catcher for his run tool, which is something you never see. He stole 19 bases in 80 games this year at Class A Advanced Visalia. What does that mean for his future? Is he going to be the best running catcher in baseball by the time he makes the majors? We'll have to see. There's a lot of other questions about him in terms of his arm and making that work. But his caught stealing rate is actually very good because his feet are very good, and he gets himself in a position to throw out attempted base stealers, even when his arm isn't, going to post some of the crazy release times and all that kind of stuff that you'll see now on StatCast. But Dalton Varsho makes that work. So a couple interesting pieces in this Arizona system, even if it's not one we typically talk about too much. Just quickly, because we have talked a lot about Atlanta, though, Tyler, what stood out to you when you were putting together that org all-star list?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we could have chosen, it feels like, about a dozen pitchers, and I even said that to Dom Cheedy, their director of player development, and he kind of laughed. But we've talked so much about the pitching that there are a couple of guys on the position player side that I want to highlight. Drew Waters and Christian Pache, who are both outfielders. You could tell how much Dom Cheedy just loves each of those guys. And I actually asked him to talk about how good Christian Pache is defensively, and he said, his defensive stuff just kind of speaks for itself. Like, that's how good. There isn't really, I think if you watch Pache play defensively, you just realize, like, oh, this guy is a star in the making. Obviously the Braves have a lot of those. But Drew Waters, they've really stuck with the concept of how much his bat was going to develop quickly. The start of last season, He got off to a good roll, kind of faded down the stretch after being promoted to Danville, and then this year was fantastic for Rome, jumped up to Florida by the end of the season to Class A Advanced, so he's really, really good. And there's some less heralded guys. One guy that I was really fascinated by, Corbin Klaus, who is a relief pitcher in that organization. Corbin Klaus was a 27th round selection in 2016 out of Davenport, and over the course of his minor league career has made 102 relief appearances out of 105 appearances total, and has a 2.01 ERA for his career. He has struck out 208 batters in 152 and a third innings in his career. That includes 83 Ks and 65 innings this year. He made it up to AAA Gwinnett, but a very untouted guy in terms of his pedigree. Went to a small school, drafted late, and has done nothing but dominate in his professional career. So you can go check that story out at MILB.com right now. Obviously, we got a lot in there on Tuki Toussaint and Colby Allard and some of the other guys, but that is a very interesting system, still loaded even with all the graduations. So the Atlanta Braves, it's a bright future in Atlanta, which feels like we said for the entirety of my childhood, and now we'll be saying again for the entirety of my 30s. And we'll get in one quick foul ball. The Arizona Fall League starting soon. We'll have a bigger preview of the AFL coming up next week.
Yeah, actually next week I think is going to be a loaded podcast that we should tease out a little bit now. Well, we know the Arizona Fall League starts next week. I'll have a tool shed up before the league opener, rating the rosters as they stand right now. After we came out with initial stories, there have been some changes. Bo Bichette actually got taken out of the AFL just this past week. So check in next week for that in terms of which teams should you be following. In the AFL, obviously, combinations of talent. It's not just, hey, there's this one farm system. Each team has 5 different farm systems feeding into it. So it's going to make for some interesting combos. But also next week, we'll be discussing more in depth the Milby Awards, which is one of the most exciting things we do each year. We'll have kind of our Milby Award preview. So we'll be combining those two things. So check back next week. This will be one of the more exciting podcasts we have.
Coming up, we're going to head to the Texas Rangers organization where we find the 26th overall draft selection from the 2017 Major League Baseball first-year player draft and the 9th-ranked prospect in that system. Center fielder Bubba Thompson joins the show fresh off of a fantastic season with Class A Hickory in the South Atlantic League. Bubba Thompson from the Rangers next.
Joining us on the Minor League Baseball podcast, the show before the show this week, is number 9 Rangers prospect Bubba Thompson, fresh back home in Alabama after instructs in Arizona. Bubba, you were just telling us it's been a long day, but how are you doing? How was the instructs experience, and how have these last couple of weeks been for you?
It was wonderful, man. I got to learn a lot of stuff in instructs. You know, that's basically why you go to get a few more games in and learn the stuff that you need to learn before the off season. And I'm glad I could finish out of there healthy and play some good games. So it's going good so far.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to bring you on this week, is because, you know, you were somebody who went through the instructs experience, and I feel like that's something a lot of people don't understand and don't know what that's like. Kind of take us through, what is a day in the life of a player going through instructs? Is it basically like spring training, or are you guys exclusively focused on the game? I mean, what was the instructs experience like?
I think it's kind of like spring training. You'll go work out in the morning. On the days you need to work out, you'll work out. And then if you need to go in the training room, whatever, you go in the training room. And then we go on the field. You know, we do practice, NDD. We hit on the field, all that good stuff. Take some outfield. The infielders do what they got to do in the infield, you know. And then we hit on the field, and after that, we'll have a game after. So it's basically like spring training.
Yeah,
but you're learning a lot of stuff, you know. It's just more games. You're getting more games into you. So.
Right, and with all that training that you were doing and all that game action you got in, what was the biggest focus for you? What was something the Rangers were kind of directing you towards as you were getting this extra action in at the end of the season?
I think they feel like I can get better reads in the outfield, but me, I was kind of working on more plate awareness and also my jumps in the outfield, just everything I want to get better at. So I know they have some stuff for me, and I think that's getting better jumps and stuff. But I also got stuff I want to work on, so that's what I try to do.
Yeah, one of the things that stood out, and again, another reason why we wanted to have you on the show, was you talked about defensive things, but you stood out with your bat a couple weeks ago with a 2-run homer in the 8th inning that ended up being the winning homer at the Don Welke On Deck Classic against the Padres prospects in San Diego at Petco Park. What was that experience like, and what was that home run like? Is that the first one you've ever hit in an MLB park before?
I have. I had a lot of pre-draft workouts I hit some, but never in a live game and, in that kind of atmosphere that it was in a big league stadium. I'm just glad, I can do it for my team, and we end up coming out with the win. But it felt really, really good, for the home run to be in the big league stadium to put my team up.
Bubba, you said there was some stuff that you wanted to work on in Instructs, and obviously the organization has kind of its own aim for when you go there. But when you get an extra opportunity like that, what's your mental approach, and what are the things that you are focused on?
Really, my whole game. I want to be the best. So, when I have that chance, like when stats it doesn't matter, So you really want to work on the stuff you really want to work on before the season. And all that good stuff comes around until when it counts. So you want to go ahead and get your mental reps, get all that good stuff. So when the season comes, it'll be really easy. Well, I won't say easy. The game's hard, but you want it to be easy to use. So.
When you look back at this season, Bubba, to go from, jumping out of high school, 26th overall pick last year, you get in short season, it's kind of that first sprint through pro ball, and then you get into your first offseason, first spring training, and first full season run. And you're with Hickory the whole way, terrific season, 84 games, 289, 344, 446, the slash line. What stands out most to you about this year, especially the fact that it is your first, full calendar year as a professional? What is it that's hit you most about being a professional baseball player?
Man, it's a lot. Every day it's an everyday grind, mentally and physically. You just got to be prepared and have a good off season going into spring training. You got to be healthy. I feel you got to be ready for a lot of games, man. A lot of games. So that's what I'm trying to go into this year. Be ready to play a lot of games. So I just have to get my body ready to do what I got to do. So I got a lot of expectations for myself that I hold for myself. So every time I step on the field, I want to do well and proceed and all that.
Yeah, and you mentioned getting ready for a longer stretch. This season, you didn't enter the season healthy. You didn't get to play for Hickory until May because of knee issues. What did you take away from that time on the DL, starting out the year injured? I've talked to prospects before about how spending some time on the DL forced them to get to learn their body. But what did you learn about yourself, spending that time injured, and how you can kind of overcome those types of knee injuries?
Well, I had tendonitis in my knees, so I got PRP shots and all that good stuff, and rehabbed, and they feel really, really good, but really just don't overwork myself because I love to work, and sometimes I can work too hard, and I just got to know my limits. So that's what I'm really learning now, to take it day by day, but also get my work in, so.
Yeah, and Tyler mentioned you had an overall strong season, but I feel like you got better over the second half. In the second half, in 55 games, you had a 300 average with a 791 OPS and stole 25 bases in those 55 games. What allowed you to grow comfortable? Was it just getting, into that learning process, or what do you feel like you did in the second half that was different from the first half?
I just feel like, the more you play games, the more the little things, the more you get used to playing a lot of games, and you just know little stuff that can help you, get that extra bat, get that extra hit, get that jump off the bat to go get a ball in outfield. Just the little things,
But the South Atlantic League is such a good separator, even just at the full season Class A level, and because there's so much travel there, and you're kind of going all over the place, and it's nice for a guy, an Alabama guy. You're not too crazy far from home, but you travel all up and down the East Coast, and you're facing so many different affiliates and all that type of stuff. The level of play this year, from what you saw in the Arizona League, how much different was it? Because you jumped over Class A short season Spokane in the Ranger system. So to go straight from rookie ball into the Sally League this year, what stood out most about that jump?
Really, the game's faster. I feel like it's gonna get faster every time you move up, but also the pitching. They can throw off speed at any count. I feel like they good at doing that. You can get a 0-0 slide. It doesn't matter, and you can be in the hitter's count and get an off speed. I think. And they know how to spot up, and they more control with their pitches, and also traveling. I feel like I can ride for days, instead of driving. I don't like driving. I mean, I'll drive if I have to, but I can ride for a long time.
You're better at being a passenger than being the driver?
Yes, sir. I can do that very well. Unless I have to drive, I drive, but I can ride for days.
What's your bus ritual? Do you watch stuff? Do you listen to music? Do you read? What gets you through those Sally League trips?
Phew. I take a pillow and cover, a jacket or something. And I want a window seat. I'll take a window seat so I can lay my head on the window. And then that's all she wrote.
So you're just good at sleeping on the bus. That's a tough skill to have.
I can sleep on the bus. I know some of the guys I talk to on the team, some of them say they can't sleep on the bus. But I mean, I don't know. I go straight to sleep, man.
I'm so jealous of the people who can sleep anywhere. People who can sleep on planes.
Right, I can sleep.
I'm so jealous of that. Tell me, when you got to the Saturday League and you realized like the way pitchers are approaching you, and the fact that they're throwing, like you said, off speed stuff wherever, whenever, whatever count. What's the adjustment like in the learning curve like for how you study, how you prepare to face opposing pitchers when you realize like, okay, this approach is going to be entirely different from what I saw in rookie ball?
Well, I just feel like your swing, you got to have confidence, man. You got to have confidence when you get in the box, that's your box, and have confidence in your swing. Don't be, thinking about your hands, while you walk up to the plate, because it happens so fast. They throwing hard, they are good at what they do, and so we got to be good at what we do, and we can't be thinking up there in the box. So really, what I take from it, I just get up there, with confidence and know my pitch and my zone and put my ace swing on it, because you can't really cover the whole plate,
Yeah, and we've talked so much about the adjustments you've had to make and, what you've had to do to grow accustomed to Class A ball. But what do you feel like translated so well for you there? What moment did you have that you thought like, okay, I can definitely play here, and this skill I have, say your speed or your bat speed or something like that, would make you such a good player at that level?
I think my God-given talent. I mean, and also my confidence, and I feel like the way I work too. So every time I step on the field, batting practice, I want to be the best. So.
Yeah, and one of the things that stood out to me about that game in San Diego you guys played, among the outfielders that got to play in that game were yourself, Leody Taveras, and Julio Pablo Martinez. I don't think you've played with those guys yet in a minor league setting, but you get to play with them in instructs.
Right.
What is it like to play with those guys? I feel like the strength of the Rangers farm system right now is in toolsy outfielders like you three. How do you guys rub off each other, and what was it like to play next to those guys?
They're wonderful guys, man. They're good guys, good players. I just think that we push one another, try to be the best. And so, I mean, that's what you got to do when you got good guys around you like that want to be the best. You push each other. So that's what I think what really goes on.
Bubba, to be able to get back home now, especially after a long day, what's the thing you're most excited about for being home? It's kind of fun when we get to this point of the off season, and it's so early on, and guys are just getting in, and you can kind of afford to take some time off. Like, what's your your schedule now? Are you going to take a couple of weeks and just relax and eat some food and be a normal dude for a while, or what are you most looking forward to?
I think I'd take, a few weeks off because, I need it. My body needs it. I feel like. But, once you take a few weeks off, I'm like, dang, I don't know what to do. My friends at school and all that good stuff. So it's really like after a few weeks, you'll want to go back, back to playing baseball. You're ready to leave and go back to your job so you can have some more fun and all that good stuff.
We always ask this
Because it's
question.
like a lifestyle.
I feel like when we get to the offseason, we always ask guys this question. What's the food thing that you're most excited about getting home for the offseason?
The soul food, man. You got barbecue, seafood. A place like Arizona, it ain't really, fresh as it would be down here in Alabama, Mobile. So that's really the main point.
Being an Alabama guy and you were an Alabama baseball commit at one time, right now, and a terrific high school quarterback, you won a state championship your senior year. How I would think you kind of dodged a bullet. You don't have to be in Tuscaloosa during that quarterback battle. Has that been kind of nice? You just get to watch this now, like on SportsCenter.
Right. Oh, I mean, God let me choose. He really gave me the opportunity to play what I'm playing now, baseball. So I don't worry about it. I like to watch ESPN. I like to watch college football and all that good stuff. It's a good vibe, but I chose something what I love, and I'm gonna do that until the wheels fall off. So
yeah. So you don't want somebody.
You
don't want somebody like Kyler Murray, who's a fellow first-round pick like yourself, who's now playing on Saturdays in Norman, Oklahoma, doing a really good job at that as well. There's not a small part of you anymore that thinks you could have done both, or you pretty set with the decisions you've made?
Oh, my confidence. I know I could have. I know I can do both, just the way I'm wired. But I think everything worked out for the best. I ain't looking in the past anymore, man. I'm in the future, trying to be the best player I can be.
Yeah, and the way you kind of, I know we're obviously far away from this now, but, with the way 2018 went, you're looking forward to 2019. Like you said, you're already looking forward to getting back to your job. If there's an aspect of your game that you're going to kind of, if we were have the same conversation as you're getting back home in 2019 at the end of another season, what's a way in which you hope you grow in the next 12 months?
Grow as a player, more mature, and also better defensively. I can, improve there. So that's what I'm really working on, defense, better jumps and all that good stuff. So that's what I'm working on in the off season, man, to try to get better jumps. But also I'm also working on my approach at the plate. Because every time you move up a level, it's got to get better. Everything has to get better. So that's what I'm going to work on.
Cool. And we'll end on this one, Bubba, which is actually about your name, Bubba. You're listed, your full name is Leslie A. Thompson. There's no B in there. There's no Bubba in there. I got to ask, where did the name come from?
Since I'm the fourth from my dad, the names he had, that's what he had, So I got also Bubba. So they call him Big Bubba. They call me Little Bubba.
Oh, that's awesome.
So ever
awesome.
ever since, I like Bubba. Leslie's kind of like, it's kind of iffy. So, but everybody loves calling me Bubba, man. I just, I don't mind it. I wouldn't mind be calling Leslie, but I mean, it's whatever, people want to call me. They can call me Bubba. They can call me Leslie. It doesn't matter.
All right. Well, my question comes more from a place of jealousy of having a cool nickname.
That
like
is a
Bubba.
Great nickname. I don't have a good nickname. That's true.
As somebody whose name goes from Samuel to Sam, I'm jealous of Leslie to Bubba. We'll put it that way.
And I might, I might have to change it in about a year. I don't know. I might have to start using my real name instead of my nickname. So I don't know how that's going to work out.
Well, if we can endorse anyway, we would say keep Bubba as long as you can. But all right, Bubba, thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy the start to your off season. Enjoy home. Enjoy all the seafood and the soul food back home in Alabama. And I'm sure we'll be catching up with you next year as the season goes along again. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh yeah, yes sir. Thank y'all for having me.
It appears that we have finally reached the end of affiliation shuffling season. I should say appears because officially we have to. And we welcome in Benjamin Hill to discuss all of that and more. Hi, Ben. Is this the craziest changeover season for affiliations in like 5 years? I feel like we haven't had an off season quite like this before. There's like dozens of teams that are going to have new parent clubs going into next year.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, Tyler, and hello, Sam.
Hello, Ben.
We were in conference room 5N.
Yes.
N
as in
Nickelodeon.
I was gonna say nefarious, but then I was like, I misspelled it or I mispronounced it.
That's super lame. I was gonna say Nancy.
It's nefarious. I was gonna say Nancy, but then I was like, well, that's what everyone says, and I'm like North.
There's many options we could have gone with.
How many words start with N?
We're not focusing on that number. We want to talk about the affiliation change. How many? That. This is not a lot of those. Alphabetical corner.
All right.
Save that for other podcasts.
All right, I'm going to start one where I just pick a letter of the alphabet and name as many words as I can, starting with that letter. Stay tuned, subscribe.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tyler, it's funny you mentioned that because I've been getting questions like that on Twitter, that sort of thing. Like, wow, is this like really? This seems unprecedented. This seems like a crazier year than in years past. I mean, as you guys know, and as I'm sure some of the listeners know, player development contracts, which are the agreements that formalize major and minor league affiliations. They expire at the end of every even-numbered season. So here we are again, and there's been some movement this year. But I've been writing about this in even-numbered seasons, doing a recap roundup article for the last decade, 2008, 10, 12, 14, 16, and I was looking at those articles. And 2018 is actually way in the low end in terms of overall changes to the minor league landscape. We do have some relocations and things get a little complicated with the whole, San Antonio situation going from AA to AAA and the kind of domino effect of that. But in terms of minor league franchises actually changing affiliation, we just have 10. Which is as many as last time in 2016 and, far less than in 2014. When we had 21. And I think the impression that there's been a lot of changes this year is because the bulk of the changes have been at the AAA level, which get the most attention by far, being A, bigger markets, and B, as a result of being at the highest level of play, the affiliate that matters the most in terms of major league call-ups and the specifics of that, logistically speaking. So I think the affiliation changes this season have gotten more attention than usual because there's been some high-profile stuff going on in AAA. But then you look below that, and AA and single A, almost entirely the same with a few changes, and short seasons entirely the same. So when you're talking about 160 affiliations, this is not much change at all in the overall scheme of things.
And one thing I want to get to specifically this week is kind of AA changes. Then, if the focus we've done on this podcast elsewhere, on the Twitter sphere, has been on AAA, let's talk about AA. Next year we have Amarillo. Insert team name here. We don't know what that's going to be yet.
Sod Poodles.
Sod Poodles is a potential one.
If you remember, there's a Sod Poodles unofficial theme song we played a couple months
back. Right.
Yes, that's a deep cut. Amarillo is going to be a Padres affiliate. Chattanooga going from the Minnesota Twins to the Cincinnati Reds, kind of keeping it close to the Ohio area, Midwest there. Pensacola going from the Cincinnati Reds to the Minnesota Twins. So some AA movement there. Any idea? I know Chattanooga has been linked with Cincinnati for a long time before this. Pensacola kind of gets the team left out. But in terms of AA, what do you kind of see here? And is there any reason behind this other than just the Reds want to be back in Chattanooga?
Yeah, I mean, so not much going on in AA. Amarillo's team being they'll play their first season in 2019, being a Padres affiliate, that's not even an affiliation change because the AA team that they had been were the AA San Antonio Missions, who were a Padres affiliate. So yes, the landscape changes a little bit. That's not an affiliation change per se. So all we have at all of AA is just, Sam, as you said, Chattanooga and Pensacola swapping out affiliates with the Reds now in Chattanooga. And I don't know the specifics of this. I think obviously geographically Chattanooga is better for the Reds. Ballpark wise, Pensacola is a newer, nicer facility. So it's just and the Twins are kind of, especially playing in Minnesota, where there's literally not a minor league team in Minnesota. And, the Twins, just by virtue of where they're located, are just kind of get the short end of the stick with proximity, really, no matter who they affiliate with across all their levels of play. So I don't know the factors that went into this, but the Twins now do have a better facility with slightly more travel distance with their AAA team in Rochester and then the parent club in Minneapolis, obviously.
But at least it's closer to the FSL team in Fort Myers.
Right. So exactly.
Or just, and we talked before about in terms of AAA travel. The home team's only home, or your AAA team's only home for 70 games a year. You can't look into home proximity that much. But for this, I mean, the FSL team is going to be traveling all over Florida. No matter where they are, they'll be closer to Pensacola than they were to Chattanooga anyway. So there's some advantages there as well.
Yeah, and so overall, I don't think I don't know the nuts and bolts and all the off the record conversations that went into this switch happening, but it's not one that's getting a lot of attention because it's not one of those, the Nationals have to be in Fresno type of things. It has huge repercussions. But the Reds with a history in Chattanooga and Chattanooga angling for a new ballpark. And as we know with how those things go, could occur anywhere between 2 years and never. But, that might, with increased proximity, a history with the franchise and the possibility of then, being likely to be the AA affiliate of Chattanooga if and when they get a new ballpark, I think works out for them. And but not that Pensacola was a bad situation, because that's a good place to play. And so it's minor league baseball. That's what I say when I don't know what else to say.
One thing I'm a little sad about, I think there are only 2 minor league teams in the entire landscape of minor league baseball that have the same locator designation, and they were both in the same system. The West Virginia Black Bears and the West Virginia Power were in back-to-back stops in the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. They are no longer that way. The Power are now a Mariners affiliate. It's kind of a bummer.
It is. I don't think we'll see the likes of that again, of players in the Pirates organization getting promoted and demoted between West Virginia and West Virginia.
Which is always super confusing for some.
It was. And when the West Virginia Black Bears, they're a Morgantown-based team. I think people thought they'd use Morgantown as their designation, particularly since there was already another team that used West Virginia as their name, but they did not do that. Created a little confusion. There'll be less confusion because, yes, those teams are now in different systems. With, as you said, the Pirates now in Greensboro and the Mariners with West Virginia.
So make sure you check out your team's landings for 2019. We actually have a page that tracks all the affiliation changes at MILB.com right now. It's right on our homepage. If you scroll down a little bit, we've got the whole affiliation domino layout where the 2018 affiliations were and what the 2019 affiliations were. This is more, I guess, for our uses, but selfishly, for the 3 of us and for all the rest of us at MILB.com, how long does it take you guys to register who is where? Because Sam and I were talking about this the other day. Like, and even now I'm having trouble remembering where everybody was, but I just, by like August, figured out the Texas and Southern League landscapes from last year. Like, I was just, at the end of the season, I was like, wait a minute, are the Angels, where are the Angels now? Are they in Arkansas? No, they're not in Arkansas. How long does it take you guys to get these things nailed down?
I think, having conversations like this and, writing a story right now that'll appear on the site tomorrow, recapping it, helps me get a fairly decent grasp of it. But it does, going through this stuff and really trying to explain it in layman's terms always makes me realize how confusing it is, even if you're a baseball fan, to really to remember these things and remember why they're happening and to sort out all this stuff. I mean, when you have the affiliation switches combined with teams rebranding combined with teams relocating, it becomes really hard to succinctly explain all these things because there's so many factors at play and just so many moving parts all the time in minor league baseball. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and for me, I guess this kind of goes on how we work on the site and what we work on. For me, it takes like a prominent prospect that I can just grasp and picture in that uniform for it to work. Tyler, when we were talking about this the other day, I said, like, the way I remember now that Arkansas is a Mariners affiliate is that I can picture in my head Kyle Lewis in the Travelers.
Yeah.
Or the way I remember the Angels affiliate is now in Mobile, which as it has been for 2 years now. But the way I picture that is I see Joe Adell in a Mobile uniform. It takes constant just reminders like that and constant uses of stories or references or players. It can take some time, and we definitely catch ourselves more often than not. But thankfully, all the team pages now have who they're affiliated with in the corners and all that kind of stuff. And it's pretty quick in terms of how the team sites work and updating all that. So for you guys at home, it'll be easier, and you please use Ben's story that's coming out, that's running Thursday, right?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, he'll have a story on all the background on all this, or the table that we have up. Keep all that stuff saved to refer to for yourselves, or come up with little tricks like we do.
Yeah, or I'd say print it out and keep it in your wallet.
That also works. That's fine.
Yeah,
we should sell like little card size affiliation.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
that is a good idea. Ben, what else do you have coming up? The Milby Awards for 2018, obviously on the horizon. We'll have some promo nominations and voting and all that type of stuff. So obviously that's on the docket. But what else is on the blog? What else is going on for you?
Yeah, it's obviously kind of a slow time of year. Basically, being at the promo seminar last week, this Monday was the first time I was kind of back in the off season, or back in the office, and it felt like it was truly the off season. Working on some affiliation stuff. We do have some team name changes on the horizon that'll be appearing pretty soon. Like you mentioned, the Milby Awards, I was in the process yesterday of trying to narrow down my 10 finalists, and that's always hard because I'm a sensitive man who is always worried about who I'm leaving out, but I'm working on that. And for me, most importantly, I'm back on the blog with like some more in-depth on-the-road posts. I know it's October, and some of these things I'm writing about, happen in July and August, but it's important to me, big picture. Even if I've already written an MILB.com feature from a place I visited, even if I had a quick blog post right after visiting, even if I was active from that location on social media, I think it's important to have like a full document of my time in that park, because that's the way I've done things since I started this. So when all said and done, especially now having been to every park, I want to be able to point to detailed blog posts about every single visit. So I'm working on that right now. Today, my designated eater post from Daytona came up. Yesterday was some Daytona stuff, some Florida Firefrogs stuff. Got stuff from Jacksonville tomorrow and Friday, and on until my entire road trip season is really done, when I'm done these blog posts. And I realize as the postseason, the minor league season is over, it can sometimes be hard to gain traction with these after-the-fact reports. But if you enjoy this stuff, I would call it timeless, and I would call my work timeless, and I'd call myself a timeless individual. And so just stay with me out of time and float in the eternal after. I was trying to come up with
you're so close. He's
so
just
close.
Like you were a gymnast who stuck the landing and then there was a wobble.
Yeah.
Just a little.
Yeah.
I don't know if the judges deduct points for that or not.
Yeah. Come float in the eternal afterlife with me.
Oh, jeez.
That's what I started to say. All I meant is that this stuff is not timely, so just it will be good no matter when you want it.
That's an Emerson, Lake and Palmer lyric that.
Come float in the afterlife. Yeah, I could see that. I didn't mean to go in that direction, but sometimes, especially on a podcast, float
wherever the afterlife takes you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That is true. Benjamin Hill is on Twitter. He is at Ben's Biz there, and the blog is bensbiz.mlblogs.com. And Ben, we'll float wherever you need to float. Just keep it rolling, man.
Thank you. We're all in this together. All out of this together. All in this together. My goodness.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks.
When did this become a hippie podcast?
Big thanks to Bubba Thompson. Big thanks to Benjamin Hill. And we're going to get out of here for this week's episode number 180 of the Show Before the Show podcast. Coming up next, again, next week, I should say, again, an Arizona Fall League preview. We got a lot coming up for you.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, and just to give you all specifics on this a little bit more, Milby voting will be beginning next week. That's the Milby Awards. We have voting on best offensive player in the minor leagues, best starting pitcher, best reliever, best team, best farm system, best game, best individual performance. It's our way of remembering the season that was in 2018, and that's something you guys get to participate in as well. We've had staff votes on who we get to pick as winners, and we've already held those, and you'll get to learn that in a couple of weeks as we get to work on features on all these players. But you have a voice in this as well. Milby fan voting will be beginning next week. Check in on site, have your voice heard in all these various fun categories, and we'll break them all down thoroughly next week, and we'll have Ben break down his picks for promo of the year. So we'll talk to you next week.